12 and 13 we discussed last week. So we go to verse 14. So before that, we'll just see briefly what we discussed last week. Most of the time we were talking other topic, right? Not exactly from the 4th chapter, but let's see. Yeah, so we discussed about how people worship demigods like Devi Devadas. There are 33 crores of Devi Devadas, and when they worship Devi Devadas, they get immediate result, instant results. That's why they are actually wanting to worship it. Although it is temporary, they don't realize it is temporary. They just wanted some immediate result. Sometimes we just say if we want to lose the weight or something like that, people wanted immediate result, but they don't care about the side effects, especially with painkillers also. Sometimes you are in such a pain, they give you some, for example, ibuprofen or steroids or something like that, very strong, and that blocks the thinking of about realizing or recognizing pain in the body. Then you just take it because the brain particular nerve part is blocked, and it doesn't recognize the pain anymore. It just accepts the pain, but the pain is there, the inflammation is there, but because the brain is not sending the signal, the body is not feeling the pain, the mind or the body is not feeling the pain. And we think, oh, this is very good medicine, paka. But actually what happens when we eat such medicine, when we take such medicines, so many side effects which we don't realize at that time. Why worshipping Devi Devadas and receiving immediate benefits will cause any side effects? Because the material entanglement will be there, correct? So there is karma bandhana. So when you are doing any activity, and there is always suffering and enjoyment for that activity. Only for akarma, which is bhakti, only when we perform bhakti, that's when there is no reaction. Okay, only you will accumulate bhakti sukruti, and then it will keep on accumulating, and your positive karma, negative karmic reaction, positive karmic reaction, everything will start to get vanquished over the time, right? This is why we should take up this bhakti yoga, the path of bhakti yoga. When we go dip in the Ganga water, the sins are removed. When you dip yourself in, when we dip ourselves in the Yamuna water, the sins are removed. But Parikshit Maharaj in Bhagavatam, he will ask Sukadev Goswami, it's like elephant bathing. What elephant does, it takes bath in the river or the pond. It just takes bath, and when the elephant comes out, immediately it just put the dirt back on. And I know there are reasons why, but actually we are taking only the part where the elephant is doing something that is not favorable for the body, correct? But even though scientifically it is said elephant is putting the dirt back on to avoid the mosquitoes or the dirt, the insects coming on to the body, but we are not going to that part. We are just taking a lesson from something. So usually in Tamil also we say யானை தன் தலையிலேயே மண்ணை வாரி போட்டுக்கிட்ட மாதிரி அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவோம். அப்படின்னா that what does it mean is the elephant takes the dirt and put on his own body. That means we are ruining our own self, the soul or the body. We are ruining ourselves by not following the correct path, correct? So when Parikshit Maharaj asking this question, Sukadev Goswami, what does he mean by that is people doing karmic activities, right? Sinful activities, knowingly or unknowingly. That also we discussed in chapter 3. Arjuna asked Krishna that why people knowingly or unknowingly doing sinful activity, Krishna. Then Krishna answers to him that it's because of, does anyone know the answer? Sumana or Shushma?
Is it because of our past deeds?
Past karma, Mataji.
Lust. So Krishna answers that as lust. It's lust only, Arjuna. So because of the lust, we have this, this deep desire that we wanted to get this, achieve this. So we are ready to do anything. Sometimes we knowingly do it, sometimes unknowingly we do it. Okay. So what happens is when Parikshit Maharaj asked this question to Sukadev Goswami, he meant that people doing sinful activities, and then go and confess themselves. In, for example, they go to Sunday church and then they confess themselves in front of the Father and saying, yes, I did this whatever so and so sinful activities unknowingly, unknowingly last week, so please forgive me, please pardon me, Father. And then what Father does? Okay, tatastu, okay, I forgive you. And then he comes out, and then Sunday he comes out, and then Monday he begins to do the same sinful activities. Yes, so again, this process repeats. Again, Sunday comes, he goes to a temple or church. I'm not only saying church only, but it could be anything. Sometimes he goes to the temple, prays to Devi Devada, saying, yes, I did commit the sins. Please forgive me. And then he goes back again and continue. Or sometimes, especially this demigod worshippers, what they do, they usually do business with the Devi Devadas. They give money, so they make money out of some bad business activities, and they get the money, right? Part of the business money, the income, they put it in the temple undi. Okay. So therefore they think, oh, now you are also partner with me, so whatever the sins I did, now you also part of the sin. So they don't necessarily say this, I'm just joking, but this is what happens. So what we have to do is not putting the dirt back on again. We should get out of this entanglement. But if we worship Devi Devadas, say for example, you are asking to get married, not you purposely, of course, but someone is asking to get married. And then when you get married, what happens? You know how much material entanglement it will continue to have. When you get married, you need to have child or children, and then you need to have, you need to give education to the children. For that, you need to work harder. You earn money, you put it for the family, maintain the family, and then you continue to do this for so many so and so years, and then even until you die, until at the time of death, we continue to work hard for the family. But now where do you find time to elevate yourself, elevate your consciousness, to get out of this material world? What we have done? Nothing. All we have done is maintaining the family. But one may question, is it wrong to maintain the family? Is it not sin or not doing the duty? Because Arjuna was asked to do this killing, because that killing is his Kshatriya duty, so he has to do it. But still he didn't want to do it, because initially he thought it is a sin. But when Krishna said that, then he thought that is apadharma, that is superior dharma, paro dharma. When there is superior dharma, then lower dharma can be compromised, because lower dharma is what we are doing, whatever activity we are doing. But once we do paro dharma, that is working for Krishna's satisfaction, like that. What does that mean is, you do whatever you are doing, like normal work, office work, but offering the results to Krishna, and always keeping Krishna in the center, in your house, in your mind, in your heart, in your family, everything like that. Okay, so even though demigod worship is temporary, but it creates, even though it gives you instant result, but it is temporary and it creates lot of entanglement. That means you need to take birth again and again until you finish up all the karmic reactions, because you are creating more and more karma, because you just wanted to get married and now you got married, now you are having children, means it's entanglement, it is continuing. Okay. Does it mean we have to take ashram like sannyas ashram? No, it doesn't need, you don't have to. And also we are not eligible to take up sannyas ashram at this stage, because we have to fulfill the requirements of a grahastha duty. So we discussed last week also the four varnas and four ashrams, right? And there is four varnas are Abrahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. And ashrams are Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasi. So when one is situated, he could be a Brahmana Brahmachari, he could be a Vaishya and sannyas or something like that. He could be anything. But Shudras are not allowed to take sannyas, but we don't have to go into too much technical details. But generally speaking, you could be at any varnas or any ashrams and still can continue to do bhakti. And Chaturvarnam Maya Shishtam Guna Karma Vibhasha. So Krishna sets up the standard of varnas and ashrams mainly for people to elevate their consciousness from lower level to higher level by following the dharmic path. Okay, so the four Purusha Arthas also discussed: Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. So Dharma means you need to follow the dharmic path. Being situated in the Varnashram Dharma, you follow that Dharma, right, in a right way, righteous way. That is Dharma. And then what you get is economic development. So when you do Dharma, you make money in a right way, right order, in a right consciousness, the right job, but these days Kali Yuga, I don't know which is right job, because always we are contributing directly or indirectly to some illegal activities also, through tax payment, because we are paying tax. The tax, part of tax, can be used for slaughterhouses, which is abominable activity, correct? So in Kali Yuga we can't really determine what is a righteous activity, what is not, even though what you're doing is right activity. Like working in a bank is not wrong, but yes, working in a bank and you're earning income, and from the income you're paying tax, and from the tax is partly subdivided into so many things. The state's infrastructure, like a hospital upgrade, or a road upgrade, or anything, library, or stadium, anything like that. And also it could be used for this is a contribution of, as I said, slaughterhouses, or like the other things that is illegal. So what do we do? So that's why we need to take up this path of bhakti yoga, so that we don't have to worry about which job we are doing. Whatever job, even if you're working in slaughterhouse also, it is fine, because gradually you will realize you will realize what is your position, and then you will slowly come out of it. Krishna will make arrangement. An example is my own husband. Okay, he was working in a Japanese restaurant where he has to deal with meat every day, and we were non-vegetarian previously also, like it was 8 years ago, and it was regular for him. Every day eating meat is like quality checking. He was a supervisor there, so he has to do all of this purposely. He will eat also, even though it doesn't have to be quality checked, he would still eat it. And I was also doing that. So what happened was, as soon as we came to Krishna consciousness, we started attending classes. Then we realized that, oh, animal killing is wrong, and we are killing another living entity directly or indirectly. We are being part of it, so we get the karmic reaction prorated. How we get prorated benefits in the office or in the government or anything like that. Like the prorated karmic reaction also we will get, even though someone is killing, someone is cooking, someone is chopping the meat. But I am also part of it. I'm selling the meat, I'm tasting the meat, so I'm part of it, right? Therefore the reaction will be really severe also, similar to how the reactions are given to the person who killed the animal. So everyone will be receiving the reaction. So I was praying to Krishna that time when we realized that this is wrong. Then I prayed to Krishna that please help us to get out of this job, give us some other job, so we can still maintain the family and also be in Krishna consciousness. Then surprisingly he got a job, nice job, and then immediately, it was almost immediate, and he got a nice job, and he started working there, and then he left, he resigned the other job. So this is how Krishna reciprocates. Even though we are not qualified to receive his mercy, we don't deserve anything, but because he is causeless mercy, he is just, you just make one single effort, like for example, like little prayer, or just a desire in your heart. That's it, he immediately falls for it, and then immediately he tries to satisfy you. It's not trying, he immediately satisfies you. He takes effort to, I mean, of course he doesn't have to take effort like as we do, but he will immediately reciprocate. And of course, depending on the situation, whether it's immediate or later, it's up to him. He is the one who has to make the decision, right? Not us. But he is the father, supreme father of all of us. So he makes the right decision also. He makes the right decision. So he gives us what is right at what time. Okay. So that's what we discussed. So this is not we discussed exactly, but this is what I was wanting to discuss. Also, the three modes of material nature, I brought it up last week, but we didn't have time to continue on that topic. So there are three modes of material nature. Okay, so we call material nature as prakriti. Okay, So three modes of material nature, what are they? Does anyone know, Sushma or Sumana?
Uh, Sattva guna, Rajas guna, and Tamo. Mode of
Correct.
passion.
Yes.
Mode of goodness is Sattva guna.
Mm.
Mode of passion is Rajoguna, and mode of ignorance is Tamoguna.
Correct. Yes. Can you give an example how you determine one is in mode of goodness or passion or ignorance?
Uh, in Sattva Guna, we feel like we need to chant Krishna, or we need to offer prasada to God. So our mind will basically be in the right direction. That is Sattva Guna. And Rajoguna is, Tamoguna is, I think, mode of ignorance where we feel very lazy. Like early morning, if I've planned to get up and do the first round of chanting, but I feel that it's okay, I'll get up after an hour and do. So I keep, basically postponing the good deeds which I have to do.
Yeah.
And Rajoguna is in between them, but I'm not very sure, Mataji. Of
Yeah. So mode of goodness, yes, during the day we split it into three parts, right? Like morning, afternoon, and evening. Usually morning times we are in mode of goodness, so sattva guna. That is, we are very much eager to do prayers or arati and eat right food, right quantity. We don't overeat usually in the morning because we feel like we want something fresh and nourishing food. So when Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the what are the things a person in Sattva does, what he eats, how he behaves, everything is given in Bhagavad Gita. Like towards the later chapters, he has given. So just give you a glimpse of it. Rajaguna means people are over hardworking and they are usually in that mode afternoon times. You know how they are rushing into finishing up the project or the deadline. They're like overthinking on these type of things, so they are like almost like agitated in their mindset. Okay. And mode of ignorance is they are so dull, they are lazy, they sleep for hours and hours, like 11 hours, 12 hours. And sometimes,
That's how long kids put to sleep.
yeah, and sometimes due to health reasons some people sleep longer, but generally speaking they are sleeping due to ignorance completely. Due to ignorance, they are not interested in anything. They eat stale food, rotten food, and food that is kept outside for many hours, and also in the fridge for many days, and like that. And also their association also very bad. They don't engage themselves in with right association, like intoxication, illicit sex, gambling, and what is the other one? um, i- Meat eating. So these type of religious activities also they might take part in, but it doesn't mean a mode of uh, rajaguna, mode of passion, or not into those. They also sometimes into those. Sometimes we will be the same personality, the same person could be in rajaguna at one part of the day or one part of the year or month, and he can be, he can be he could be the combination of all three also in different permutation combination depending on the weather. Sometimes the weather will ruin your mood, so you'll be fine and everything pakka, then you see the weather, it's so cloudy and it's so dull and you can't go out or anything. You're agitated, you're upset, you're angry, frustration comes. These are all because of this rajaguna. One second, I just need to put it mobile in charge. So those are the three modes. And ignorance people, we already saw that lazy and stuff. Yeah. And we should try to come out of this lower modes, that is passion and ignorance, as following practicing devotees. We should be coming to the higher level, that is at least mode of goodness. But ideally, we want it to be in the mode of pure goodness, which is Suddha Sattva. And this is above these three modes of material nature. And when we are situated in Suddha Sattva, we are very peaceful and blissful. But even in the mode of goodness also, we can realize, we can experience this mode, the mood, being peaceful and blissful and happy, when we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, for example. Hare Krishna Mahamantra is not this material mantra or anything like that, but it is rather it's a transcendental sacred sound vibration. Okay, all right, we'll go to verse number 14. Namam karmani limpanti name karma phalai spraha iti mam yo vijananti karma birna sabhadyate. Translation: there is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions of work. We already discussed this. Because when we engage in sense gratification, what happens? Because we wanted fruitive result, we wanted to do some work and we wanted to enjoy the fruit. That means you're getting the salary. Oh, you can't hear me? Wait a minute. Oh. Well, I was on mute in one mobile phone, but I am not mute in the laptop. But I think I lost the connection for some reason. I can't hear you, Sushma. You're saying something? Oh, sorry. Can you hear me, everyone?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. I was saying, so how long I was lost? So I was saying something, right? How long I was lost?
I think you said you want to charge your phone and then we couldn't hear anything after that.
Okay. I didn't do anything wrong. I was just charging, but for some reason it didn't like me. But the laptop lost the connection. The mobile phone is fine. My laptop lost the connection for some reason. Mama, கொஞ்சம் அது இது போயிருச்சான்னு பார்க்குறீங்களா ப்ளீஸ்?
You were saying that person could be all three
Yes.
at the same time.
Yeah.
Different combination.
Okay. All right. I don't know why I lost it. So I don't know if. Oh, I think it went on aeroplane mode, I think. Let's see if it's working. Can you all hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
Mataji.
Mataji.
Okay, perfect. All right. Don't worry if I'm sideways because charging is happening. That's why. All right. So what I was saying is, yeah, we were discussing about this already. So this verse, I think you didn't hear this verse, did you?
No, Mataji, we
Okay,
didn't.
we'll start again then. So I was reading this verse and started to explain also. That's okay. We'll repeat it. So verse number 14, chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge. Namam karmani limpanti name karma phalai spraha iti mam yo bijananti karma birna sabhadyate. Translation: there is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the fruitive reaction of work. Okay, I have to share my screen again because we lost it. Oops. Okay. Is it okay, the screen, or is it sideways or something? All okay?
Yes, Mataji.
It's
the
all
screen is
okay,
fine.
Mataji.
Okay, good. This is all right. So I was saying, see, Krishna is saying in this verse that we already discussed in chapter 3 also. Krishna says that he comes, millennium after millennium he comes. That verse is said in chapter 4, but in chapter 3 also he says that he doesn't have to come and do any activities. Okay, he doesn't have to work, but still he does. Why? Because he want to set a right example. Yat yat acharati shrestha tat tat eva itara janaha. So itara janaha means the people, common people will follow what great people will do. See, if you see celebrities, the big cinema personalities, so many fans are there, and they just follow them, and they, whatever they are doing, like they put nice clothes or something, the outfit is something fashionable now, then they also, the followers also wanted to follow that, like that. And then the politicians also, they follow, correct, the common people. Why? They think these celebrities are great personalities, they wanted to follow them, follow those styles or their way of talking or whatever. But this is like, this is natural, right? You always find a leader or role model or whoever you are inspired by, you just follow that. And when Krishna comes, and if he doesn't follow the right thing, then people will also follow the, if he doesn't follow, then people also don't want to follow, correct? But of course he did some little naughty things or whatever, that is to attract, that is being adorable, that's something transcendental naughtiness, okay, transcendental cheating. We can't really compare and say, oh, he did it, see, we should also do. No. And if he want to follow one or two things of his bad activities or transcendental bad activities, then we should also follow other good activities, like he was protecting the Vrajavasis by lifting the Govardhan hill with his little pinky finger. 7 days and night he was standing like that only. With one little finger he was holding the Giri Govardhan. And under the Giri Govardhan hill, all of the Vrajavasis, monkeys and cows and peacocks and all were being protected by him. Okay, from the cloud and the rain sent by Indra, Lord Indra, who was agitated by his own proud, and he wanted to take revenge on Krishna, not knowing Krishna is the supreme Lord. But again, these are all pastimes. We shouldn't think Indra is bad or anything like that. It's just to give us a lesson. Even Indra can do such mistakes. So what to speak of us? That kind of knowledge and information we should take. The teachings we should take. So here Krishna is saying that he does work, but he doesn't, even though he doesn't have to work at all, but he still does, especially in Dwaraka. He was married to 16,108 queens, and he was maintaining each individual queen separately, because he manifested that many times simultaneously, and he had that many palaces simultaneously, and he was maintaining the family, the children and everything. Everyone had 10 children each. So 100,000, more than 100,000 children he had. So he was maintaining, playing with them nicely. Sometimes he is doing his meditation in one house, sometimes he is talking to the elders, sometimes he is doing some brahminical duties, sometimes he's giving charity to the brahmanas who have come, sometimes he is washing the lotus feet of his devotees who have come to take darshan, like for example Narada Muni. So he is doing something or other, like a normal grahastha, like in those days, whatever in those days the normal grahastha would do. These days we are not kings or queens, right? We don't have palaces or anything, or we don't wash feet to whoever comes to our house. But it was an etiquette those days, in those Vedic days. Okay, but he does that not expecting, or he doesn't need to expect or wait for the fruits of the action, right? Because he just does it to inspire us. And if we also follow this, right, then what happens is we won't become entangled in the reactions, because when there is a activity and there is a reaction, because you wanted to enjoy the reaction, so you're doing some more activity, then there is another reaction, and then there is another activity, and then another reaction, so it continues. This is called entanglement. What this entanglement does is, if it keeps building up, you can't satisfy, you can't burn all your karmic reactions, whether it's good or bad, in the one lifetime. So you have to take birth again. I give this example. A man abuses a woman in one lifetime, then he has to suffer being a woman abused by a man. Then he will feel how it feels like, you know even though he doesn't know whether he did it in past life or millions of lives ago or anything like that, but the suffering should be there. For that he has to take birth as a human, and not human but a man. For to becoming a human and being a man, you need to have done these many pious credits, these many good activities, to become eligible for that, you need to have done that also. Then for that also you need to take birth, and like sometimes you will take birth as a woman millions of lifetimes until you have accumulated that many pious credit, then you become that man. Okay, it's not that woman is inferior, man is superior. I'm just giving you an example to become that man. Maybe that man was, like a rich man being abused by a rich lady, for example. So he has to become a rich man again, rich woman again, to be abused by another rich man. For that, to become a rich person, you need to have so much piety, correct? So like that, for that example only I was telling. Okay, don't think I'm always, not always, but I'm just biased with a woman or a man. No, it's just an example I'm trying to tell. Okay, we discussed this entanglement already, so we move on to the next one. So verse number 15. Yevam nyatva kritam karma purvayarpi mumukshibhi kuru karmaiva tashmatvam purvaiha purvataram kritam. Translation. All the liberated souls in ancient times acted with this understanding of my transcendental nature. Therefore, you should perform your duty following in their footsteps. See, Krishna is saying that. So all the transcendentalist and transcendentalist means yogis, jnanis, but they are following bhakti path. Okay, sometimes jnani can be also become bhaktas. For example, 4 kumaras who were jnanis, still jnanis, and they were four sons of Brahma. Brahma has many sons. Of course, we are all sons of Brahma in one way, but we are all sons of superior, including Brahma also, superior father, supreme father, that is Krishna. Okay, in one sense Brahma is our father of the material world, but in reality, in eternity, Krishna is our supreme father. So Krishna is saying it's not you follow me, but in these 2 verses Krishna is saying that Vallabha, please don't do anything. Krishna is saying that how the transcendentalist, or liberated souls, they followed this, they understood this truth, like that you also understand and perform your duty. That means, what is he trying to say, Krishna? He's just telling that don't worry about the results, just do your activity. Okay, the results will come anyway, whether you are worried about the results or not worried, the results will come. How the results will be, like, depending on your previous karma, or depending on what you have done, what is the level of bhakti you are performing. Sometimes even though you have to suffer something, because you are following this bhakti path, Krishna minimizes this suffering and gives you only the token. Okay, so Prabhupada, one time, he is the founder Acharya of ISKCON. One time he was cutting the vegetables and he chopped his finger accidentally. Chopped in the sense he cut his finger accidentally, not chopped, sorry. He cut his finger accidentally and it started to bleed. And then the devotees, they were new, they couldn't understand this, incident. And they questioned Srila Prabhupada, asking, Prabhupada, you are a great devotee, you are a pure devotee and sincere devotee. How Krishna could do something bad to you? How could he have done this? He could have stopped this from happening, right? You shouldn't have got hurt. Then Prabhupada said, no, Krishna is being so merciful. Instead of me losing my hand, the entire arm, he just cut little part of my finger, just to give a token. Because we are still in material world, we are still supposed to be suffering, correct? It's not that we are going to be happy here. Krishna himself says in chapter 8, Ashashvadam, Dukkalayam Ashashvadam. This world, material world, is temporary. Shashvadam means permanent. Ashashvadam means temporary. And this Alayam, which Alayam? Alayam means the dwelling place or place we are residing. This is Dukkalayam. Dukka means, Shuga Dukka. Dukka means suffering. So this is full of suffering. So we from Krishna we can guarantee that this material world is full of suffering only, but there are some little happiness comes here and there. We think this world is full of happiness, but for some reason we are missing out on it. No, we are not missing out on it. We are supposed to be here suffering only. But because Krishna is merciful, he still gives you some little piece of cake here and there. Okay, at least, don't get beaten too much. A little bit, medicine also there. But in Kali Yuga, Stop, Vallabha.
Okay, I'll start if you stop doing that. Wait, you stop.
மாமா இவனை கொஞ்சம் வந்து பாருங்க, அடி திம்ப நீ. விட்டுருங்க மாமா. So what I was saying is what I was saying, I'm lost. What I was saying,
You were just explaining about how happiness is temporary. I mean, it's like a temporary cake, and we think we are happy in this material world, but it's not the real truth. I mean, it's not the case.
reality. Yes. Krishna gives this happiness and it's not he is giving purposely, it's our karmic reaction only, because you have done, for example, 10,000 piety and 20,000 sinful activity. That means 10,000 times you will be enjoying your life, right? Because for example, you were born in a rich family, you look beautiful, you're intelligent, you got a good job, wife, nice family, and nice house and everything. So because of 10,000 piety, the pious credit, you're enjoying your life in these factors, correct? And then because you have done sinful activities, you got a you got some mental illness or health problems, or you lost the job, or your neighbor is not so good. Sometimes it happens. You bought a house and you have a bad neighbor, then what do? You have to deal with it. So like that, the suffering could come through anyway, and we shouldn't blame the person or the thing or the place which is giving us suffering. It is only at the messenger or the delivery boy. Prabhupada says that how you get the $100 or 100 rupees through post or money order. These days I don't know, money order still is in the market. But those days, you send 100 rupees money order to another person and he receives 100 rupees, and he wouldn't go and give gifts or respects or anything extra to the postman who gave you that money order, 100 rupees or 1,000 rupees, for example. Because that postman is doing his job and he is supposed to give you that money. You got the money and you are not going to blame him, or you are not going to celebrate him. You just keep it and then you move on, correct? Similarly, when we get the suffering also, when we get enjoyment through someone, we wouldn't say, why you are giving me enjoyment, why you are making me happy. We never question that. But when someone is making us suffer, then only we question, oh, why you are making me suffer? You're just awful, you're terrible, you're ridiculous. So we just use all those words to try to keep our to try to bring out that mental agitation. But then actually we are getting more and more frustrated when we talk about it, without understanding the truth. The truth is what is just a delivery boy or a girl or the place. Sometimes you might think, oh, I was very well, I was doing nicely and everything. For example, in my life also in India, I never had this problem, particular health problem. I had some other health problem, but whatever I'm suffering for last 15 years, I didn't have that time in India. So as soon as I came to Australia, because of cold, I got this problem immediately. I got the problem. So within few days, I got the effect, and 1 month I was diagnosed also, and then I'm still suffering. So does it? Then I also was saying like, oh, I was very well doing in India. Now see, in Australia, the Australia ruined my health, and no, it's not. The place didn't ruin me. It's my own karmic reaction. It just came in Australia. See, in India, I was suffering with because of different illness. Correct. That illness could have continued here, but that illness is rare here. Okay, therefore I had to suffer somehow or other. I have to suffer through this health problem. So the law of karma is very clever, intricate and clever. It works very perfectly. So what it did nicely, it gave you a different health problem suitable for the Australia. So you can't complain, how come I got the health disease, whatever the health problem I had in India here, because here everything is fine based on that particular health problem. Therefore I can't complain, right? Now I got this health problem which is very common and etc, and now there you go, I got it. So, and now I'm trying to escape from Australia. Then if I go to India and if I still still have to suffer more of health problem, then there arrangements will be made. So I can't escape. So whether you're in country A or country B or anywhere in the world, law of karma will tag you. reach you. So no problem with that. So only thing we can do is survive. To survive, pray to Krishna. Survive in the sense we will always survive because we have to suffer, right? Suffering means you have to survive. So karma will make sure, law of karma will make sure that you are surviving somehow. Garuda Purana, it said, when we are sent to hellish planets, the body will become, the body will change, whatever the body we have made up of Pancha Mahabhuta. But when you go to the hellish planet, when you are put it in the fire, the body will be suitable to be burnt in the fire, but still not die, still not perish. That kind of body will be given. So if you're supposed to suffer in the water, then the body will be given. You will be suffering with the pain. There will be pain, okay, but your body will not die. Like die in the sense the body will not perish. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. Here also you see, you sometimes accidents happen. Sometimes we cut our fingers. Sometimes things happen, right, accidentally here and there. But still we manage to survive like that. But we suffer from the pain also, but still we are surviving like that. Also in hellish planet, it is the arrangements are made such a way you will get suitable body for that particular type of suffering. Okay, all right, so let's move on to this. So Krishna is saying here that we should follow in the transcendentalist, the liberated souls who understood, you know, liberated souls like sun god Vivashwan, Arjuna, you know, how they are doing, how they are practicing Krishna consciousness. Like that, we should also understand the truth and follow in their footsteps. Okay. Number 16. Kim karma kim akarmeti kavayopi atra mohitaha tate karma pravakshyami yajnatva mokshayase subhat. Translation. Even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. Now I shall explain to you what action is, knowing which you shall be liberated for all misfortune. Okay. So here, sometimes we get confused. We think that, oh, activities are bad. That jnanis, what they do is, no, I'm not going to do any activities. I'm going to meditate and that's it. I don't want to be engaged in any material activities so whatsoever. I just want to sit in the forest, secluded place, and this just chant. Oh, chant in the sense they don't chant Hare Krishna, then they become Bhakti Yogas, right? So they are jnanis, they don't chant Hare Krishna. They just chant. Sometimes they don't chant also, or sometimes they might chant Om, even though Om is sound vibration of Krishna, Omkara. But because their consciousness is not Bhakti. When you are, for example, when you are calling your son and your son name is Keshava, for example, with Bhakti you are not calling, but still you get benefit, but that is different. Like we have a Jamil story also, which I'll tell next time. The girls know already, but others might not know. So when you chant Om, you get the benefits, but your consciousness not in Bhakti path, correct? Your consciousness, you want liberation from this material world, and you want to go to Brahma Jyoti, that is the light effulgence of Krishna. So very, you know, when there is a sun, there is a sunshine, right? So, and there is a sun god inside, okay? So when, if you know there is sun god inside, you will directly pray to sun god. You won't be praying to the sunshine or the disk, sun disk, because you are very intelligent. You will know, you know already there is sun god. Then what do? Directly you pray to sun god. Why are you praying to sun disk, which is nothing, just the environment, all the light coming from the sun? Okay, it is still auspicious, still good, but you wouldn't be spending time praying to the lights, correct? Similarly, jnanis don't know the truth that the light effulgence, the Brahma Jyoti, is nothing but the light effulgence coming from Krishna's light, the illumination. Therefore, they just worship only the, not worshipping, they just wanted to go to that place, Brahma Jyoti, which is full of just plain void light, and they just want to go there. They do what? Nothing. No activities happening there. You know, sometimes I'll tell you, let's go to the stadium and sit, and then you ask next question that what's happening there? Nothing. You just go sit and come. Okay, sit for how long? Maybe 5 hours. You'll be like, what are you talking about? Why do I want to go to the stadium and sit for 5 hours and come back? I mean, especially nothing is happening there. No, it's just good, you know, not thinking about anything, just sitting. Will you come? No one would come. What's happening? Nothing is happening. Why do I have to come? Right? Similarly, when you're intelligent enough, you will know Brahmajyoti doesn't have any activities happening. In Golaka Vrindavan, so many activities happening. Whatever Vrindavan Krishna did here, he has been doing that for eternity, right? She's stealing butter, pranking the gopis, playing with monkeys and gopas. He's doing all these things repeatedly over and over again over there, Golaka Vrindavan. Always the things happening. Mother Yashoda churning butter, making milk sweets and yogurt, and the gopis selling the stuff in the market, like that. It's always happening in a, that mood, Vraja mood. That is Vraja Bhav. But here, in Brahmajyoti, nothing is happening, no activities whatsoever. Then what is the point? It's just a waste of time. What they do stay there for millions of years or thousands of years, however they want to stay, they stay according to their credit, I think. And then they come back to the material world, especially the earth planet. They come and then they'll have to practice bhakti. If they don't practice bhakti, they want to continue the same thing, they can, because Krishna doesn't interfere in our choice. He gives you options, like even to Arjuna, but the choice is ours. So if we are intelligent enough, we should take right choice. So jnani thinking acting is wrong. Okay, like acting means karmic activities, like material activities, is not conducive for his promotion to Brahmajyoti. So he becomes inactive. Okay, that is, he cannot be inactive at any stage, because every time we walking, sitting and coughing, we are doing some activity. And unfortunately, we are still killing some bacteria or something or other insect or anything, knowingly or unknowingly, during this process, even though we want to be inactive, but still we are doing it. So that is, Krishna doesn't recommend inaction at all. He always wants us to be active, because the soul cannot be inactive. It is very active. It is situated in Satchit Ananda. Okay, Sat means full of, it's eternal. Satchit means fully knowledgeable, and Ananda means fully blissful. So this is the position of the soul, individual soul. And when you try to put the soul in misery, like putting fish not in the water but on the land, what happens? The fish can't survive. Like that. That's why we are always now and then we are feeling this frustration. Okay, everything is fine. I have everything. There is emptiness in heart. Everything is fine, but we are trying to find fault in something in our process, in our life activities. We are trying to find something. Oh, there is a problem. Oh, everything is fine, but just my husband. Everything is fine, just my child. Everything is fine, it's just my health. Or everything is fine, my job. But yeah, job always comes first. You know that. Okay. All right. I stop here. Any questions? I'll give you one story before I stop. So for inactive, what happened? There is a Muni called Saubari Muni. He actually went under the water. Okay, under the ocean, because outside it's so disturbing, right? When you see someone doing something, then your mind getting disturbed. So he doesn't want to see anybody. And Krishna also will tell in Bhagavad Gita, later chapters in Dhyana Yoga, that how yogis will sit and meditate, how he should meditate. The eyes to be 3/4 closed. He has to keep little bit open. If he fully closes, he'll go to sleep. And the seating arrangement also would be little cushiony, not too much. Otherwise, he'll be like very jolly sitting. No, there has to be some austerity, right? Tapasya. And eating, sleeping, everything has to be minimal. Not too much sleep, not too much eating, and like that. Okay. So these are given in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says that. But again, we don't have to worry about all that. Yes, it is good for us also. Of course, we shouldn't oversleep, overeat. Adyahara prayascha. That means overeating is also not good. It's in the nectar of instruction. Bhakti Upadesa Amrita. All right. So, no, just Upadesa Amrita for Bhakti, of course. That book written by Rupa Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami. Very nice book. We will read that. Once we finish, we will definitely read that book. It's very nice instructions given. So Saubari Muni went under the ocean and he started to practice his meditation. He is not a bhakta. See, if you are a bhakti, what happens? Krishna will make all the arrangements to bring you back from whatever you are doing wrong. Okay, that is guaranteed. Even if you're doing wrong knowingly, knowingly you're doing sinful activity, Krishna will bring you back to the order. Okay, that is guaranteed. But we also have to make effort. We also need to realize and will continue to be in bhakti. Okay, and but even if you left bhakti also, he will make sure he'll bring you back. Don't worry. So swalpa apiyashya dharmashya trayate mahato bhayat. Second chapter we studied that. Even if you have done little bit, swalpam ne the little bit, you will be protected from even the greatest type of danger. So the Saubari Muni is sitting and meditating nicely, with the eyes little bit open only, right? And see, the siddhis, this yogis have this capacity. They can do whatever. They walk on the water because they have siddhis. Walk on the water, become smallest of the smallest, biggest of the biggest. But truly, Krishna is the smallest. Can be smallest of smallest, biggest of biggest. But for them also, they get some glimpse. They also get those siddhis a little bit. And he was he got this ability to sit under the ocean and doing this meditation process, and suddenly he saw copulation of two fishes. Okay, two fishes mating. That's it. His mind got agitated. Now he also wanted to enjoy. He immediately got out of this water, and then he went to a king and asked for to give his girl for marriage wedding. And then he got married. Initially she didn't like it because he looked like ugly. How do you look if you are in the water for so long? Your skin like shrunk and stuff like that. But then, and of course he is a yogi, he became like a smart guy again and he got married. And then later he realized his mistake, and then he left that um, this kind of sense gratification, and then again came back to the right consciousness. So yeah, so we have to be very careful. We shouldn't artificially think I am avoiding this, I'm avoiding that, I'm taking this. Always we should add Krishna. Don't avoid anything at this stage. Don't stop anything, whatever you're doing. Just add Krishna more and more. When you put more purifying water, the mud will get out, okay, slowly. So like if you keep pouring, and then the mud will get agitated and come out, come out, come out, and then slowly it's a gradual process. If you have done very good bhakti in the previous lifetimes, then you pick up very quickly, no doubt, I'm telling you. But because if you haven't done much, then it will take time. You have to give time also. But if you are in rush, for example, no, I know this Krishna consciousness is emergency, because if I die anytime and I haven't done my bhakti, then I have to take birth again. So I don't want to take birth again. So I wanted to do this bhakti. So for that, what do I do? Then chant Hare Krishna sincerely. That's it, every day, and then it will be fine. See, I wanted to do one round of chanting, but because I have to go elsewhere, I can't really do. I'm sorry, but please, you take your time and do chanting nicely, whichever time you find it suitable for your own situation. You just sit in front of deities, picture of deities, chant nicely so that your focus is not, deviated from the object of love, that is Krishna. Okay. Any questions?
Is there any daily practices I could do?
Yes, daily practices, definitely chanting Hare Krishna. So chanting in the sense you can chant loudly, so that you can hear back, not too loud to disturb the neighbors, but neighbor in the sense someone who is living with you also. But it is beneficial for them also. When they hear you chant, and that will inspire them, then they will also follow. Chanting for at least 30 minutes, we chant for 2 hours daily. But you, to start with, start from 15 minutes, so just chant 2 rounds, 4 rounds, like that. Slowly every ekadasi you increase 1 round. I know, Mukesh, you have done a very great job. You have done ekadasi fasting, well done, congratulations. And he messaged me, and I'm so proud of him. So I wanted him to talk next week, since I have to leave somewhere. So I want him to talk about how he did the fasting, so he can tell others, so they also try to implement that in their ekadasi days. So yeah, anything is good. Fasting in any way, fast from grains is the main thing we do. But you can only take, for example, liquid like fruit juice, the vegetable juice, fruits, vegetables, like that. Or you could take quinoa, buckwheat, like little of those qualified, bona fide millets on that day, particular non-grain items. So depending, you can take curd, lettuce, and salad, simple salad like that. Also, you can take. Some people fast from even water. I wouldn't recommend to start with unless your body is able to do that. Please go ahead. But otherwise, start with simple fasting and then gradually improve your fasting every week. I mean, every fortnight. Mainly, your chanting needs to be there every day, daily practice, and offering food before eating prasadam. Before eating the food, we offer food to Krishna without onion, garlic. Okay, patram pushpam palam toyam. So Krishna says, anything you can offer with love and devotion, I'll accept it, whether a leaf or water or fruit or a fruit, patram, pushpam, flower. Anything you can offer, Krishna says like that, but not onion, garlic, or meat or mushroom. So we try to avoid all this coffee, tea, offering to Krishna. But if you are, coffee lover and tea lover, please continue. But there are alternatives for coffee. There are alternatives for tea also. Perfect. You will still get the same taste. Believe me, I was a coffee lover and tea lover. I can't live without it. I used to be like every day, I definitely would have had coffee and tea in my day. But then after coming to Krishna consciousness, I learned that an alternative which is healthy for our body also, like Rooibos, South African tea. And there is a Caro, that is also available in Woolies, Coles, like that, both. And you can buy and make exactly however you make instant coffee and normal chai latte or anything like that. You can use these two and you'll still get taste and even better, because you're offering to Krishna. It becomes prasadam, right? Then that means prasadam means mercy of Krishna. His saliva touches it. You can imagine how uh, tasty it would become. Even though I'm a bad cook, still I get good prasadam, right? That's because it's because of his mercy is present in the food. That's why. So please offer food every day to Krishna. Whatever you are eating, before that, please offer. If you're not cooking every day, 3 times a day, that's fine. Even if you cook 1 time a day, sometimes you are not cooking at all, just offer milk or fruit or nuts, dried fruits, like that, tulsi leaf, like that you can offer to Krishna. And then leave it for him to eat for 5-10 minutes. And then after that, you take and mix the little cup you offered to in your food, mix it so it all become prasadam. Then you honor the prasadam and chanting for like 4 rounds, 5 rounds, like that. Or start with 1 round and gradually increase. And then reading books, very important. Srila Prabhupada's book. So A, B, C, D, we follow. A means association. So you should have right association. And then B is books, reading Prabhupada books. So in a Veda based website, you have all the books you need. You can choose a little book and read. Or Bhagavad Gita also you can read. Whatever we discussed today, read full translation and purport. Okay, if you don't know how to read the Sanskrit, that's fine, but you just read that translation and purport and try to understand. If any questions you can ask. C is chanting, we discussed it. D is deity worship and diet we discussed it, that is food offered to Krishna. We should only accept that as food as prasadam. We should only accept prasadam because the other food will have karma in it, karmic reaction in it, because the farmers would have killed so many things, and that we also would have done some wrong deeds in bringing the food to the table. Therefore, we should better offer to Krishna, then the karmic reactions is removed. Okay. All right. So C, D. And deity worship is nothing but you keep pictures in your altar, in your home mandir, and offer to Krishna, and nicely you do arati, kirtan in front of Krishna. You kirtan whenever you get a chance, and yeah, that's it. Just follow these 4, and you'll be fine. And the regulative principles we try to follow is no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, and no intoxication. Okay, if you're doing any of this, it is still fine. As I said, Krishna says in chapter 9, Sudara Charu, if we are doing abominable activities, Krishna will make sure he brings us back to the right path. Okay, so everything is guaranteed. All we need to do is take an effort and chant nicely and do other stuff as much as possible. Any other questions? A nice question, by the way, Mukesh. Well done. Very good question for the benefit of everybody. read at least one page a day. If you can't read to chapters and chapters or anything like that, read one page a day. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I'll stop here if no more questions. Thank you very much, everyone. Hare Krishna.